And now, it's time for Ted Nugent's Spirit Campfire with John Brenkus. It's the physics of spirituality with attitude.
Jealous me by the clamor. I'd like to tear up the street. You know, I've been smoking for so long, you know, I'm here to stay. I got you in a stranglehold, mofo. You best get out of my way. Brenkus, how are you? Did you miss me?
Man, am I amazing. I'll tell you what, we have a record-size audience tonight.
Hallelujah!
From all over the place. And look, we've got Texas. Dude, I'll tell you, the theme of the night is Texas. Because
I would think so. In other words, let me guess, somebody out there really, really not only likes, appreciates, and cherishes freedom, they demand it. This is the Ted Nugent Spirit Campfire. We don't just cherish, request, celebrate, and genuflect at the altar of freedom. We literally demand it. We remember the Alamo, and we're never going to let it happen again. John, I missed you. Did you miss me?
Dude, I always miss good people. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Look, here's...
Yeah, but what about me? All right, good people. What about your old Uncle Ted?
Uncle Ted, how can we not miss you?
Now, John, I want to get into it, because, what have we been doing this now? It's been weeks, feels like years. The Spirit Campfire, what a concept. Thank you for, getting back with me after we did that Independence Day, which, by the way, in the Nugent household and everywhere I wander, it's Independence Day every day. But Brenkus, I got to tell you, people are going, so where'd you run into this Brenkus dude, Uncle Ted? Let's discover here the vapor trail of one young John Brenkus. So what I know about you, and I don't need to know anything else other than how you conduct yourself, that you're on time. Punctuality is critical to the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But John, let's start off tonight's campfire on August 6th. Is it the 6th?
It's August 6th.
2020. Let's get into your gut pile, shall we? Where, John Brenkus, did you come from? I know the ESPN stuff, and I want to delve into that, but I think everybody would like to know, who's this Nugent sidekick? Tell us a little about where you were brought up, how you got here, and your ESPN celebrations.
Listen, I was born and raised. I was actually born in D.C. proper.
Welcome to America.
That's right. That was in 1971, and I then grew up right outside of D.C. in Vienna, Virginia. I want to hear shout-outs to Vienna, Virginia in Facebook, because Northern Virginia, for whatever reason, is one of those transient places on the planet. So people are in and out of it all the time, but it was an amazing place to grow up. It's changed a lot since 1971 and when I grew up there. But Virginia was incredible. I went to the University of Virginia and then started a production company and developed an expertise in sport and science and fused those things together. And
so how did you develop an expertise in sports? Were you like a sports jock? I got to tell you, when I went to high school, John, I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but it's the story of my life. So you got into sports and science. I want to probe that momentarily, but here's a little sidelight that a lot of people might not know about the goofy guitar player. So I went through school and I graduated from high school. Do you know, John, that I never attended a sporting event, and I didn't know that there was sports in school. I had no idea that, maybe there was a football team or a baseball team. I have no concept. So obviously everybody else, I know the term jock, the athletes, and that's a hierarchy throughout school. I was already rocking my balls off. So you blended sports and science. Tell us about what's that?
So I blended sport and science by, I was, I was relatively athletic compared to the average person, but certainly not a good athlete by any means. I mean, I didn't play anything in college, but I was. You
weren't like Bruce Lee with a guitar, like no, I was.
No, and that was, when people say what's the one thing that, you have any regrets? I don't have any really regrets, but I'm kind of bummed out. I didn't pick up the guitar until I was 20.
By the way, bummed out, that's a regret. That's what we call it. There's a lexicon here. There's semantics.
It's, I played the violin and, then picked up the guitar when I was 20 and didn't pick it up again until I was 40 and then started writing music there. But I blended sport and science, where I grew up in the DC area, and we had the Redskins and we had the Bullets and the Wizards and the Capitals and the Orioles up in Baltimore. So we had a championship in almost everything. The Bullets won the championship. The Orioles won a championship. Redskins won 3 championships. So I was a giant, DC was like Sport Town USA back in the 70s and 80s. So I had this huge love of it.
Yeah, growing up in Detroit, obviously it was ubiquitous, except in the rock and roll world. I was so addicted to musical adventure and the unbelievable virtuosos I was surrounded with. But here's one for you that maybe only John Brenkus and a handful of Motor City Mayhem fans out there. I went to one professional, sports event in 1958. I rode my bike. It was a Huffy. I called it the Stump Jumper. It's how I delivered the Detroit news and the shopping news to buy guitar strings. So I took my Stump Jumper from way out around 6 Mile in Grand River, and I don't know how many miles it is. I guess it's, 20-some miles. I rode my Stump Jumper to Briggs Stadium. Do you know what that is?
No.
Briggs Stadium, that's the original Detroit Tigers ballpark over there on Trumbull Avenue. It's a historical landmark, and I watched, and I think there was a guy named Stormin' Norman Cash, and God, I can't think of the other names. I think Al Kaline was in the Tigers back then. But there was a bunch of famous guys, but I got to tell you, John, I was watching the game. What was I, going on 10? I was 9 years old, the summer of my 10th year.
Right.
About to be my 10th year. And I could not have been more bored watching these guys waiting. Storm and Norman Cash, and there's another, I can't think of their names right now. But anyhow, it was a big deal back then, but I was bored to tears. So I got on my stump jumper and went back to the Rouge River, got out my bow and shot a rat.
Here's one thing. The audience is going nuts. We have an all-time high audience.
They were already nuts. You have to be nuts to tune in. They were well on their way.
That's right. So here's the thing that I want everybody to do right now. Tell me your first memory or concert with Ted Nugent, because I've seen it throughout these shows where everyone's like, oh my God, I saw you here, I saw you there. Let's consolidate it all into one spot and kind of put Ted to the test. He says he remembers every show, says he lives a clean lifestyle. Let's put it to the test. And everybody throw where you saw Ted first or where you first heard his music. Let's figure out how good Ted's memory is, because we're going to throw out some.
John, can we have a back and forth video with our viewers here tonight, like we did that first night? Because I heard from someone literally yesterday on Facebook that remembered the Bat Cave in Arlington Heights in 1965 and the Cellar. The Cellar was a classic place where everybody from the Stones and the Who and the Cream and everybody played. The Cellar. So that's going back to 1965. And then last month or so, I heard from a guy that went to one of the BMFs. They were called the BMFs. I don't know what that might have stood for, but it was at VFW halls in Detroit in 1962 and saw me with the Lourdes, Lourds. So there's quite a bunch of old people out there that remember this stuff.
All right. So we have, first was Sharon. Sharon says that she first saw you in Sturgis.
Sturgis, South Dakota, at one of the motorcycle get downs?
Yep.
Well, that wasn't until we didn't do that until I think we might have done our first Sturgis. That wasn't that long ago. I think the first Sturgis was probably late 70s, maybe. Okay. Unless it wasn't the motorcycle gig, it might have been at the auditorium there. We did that in 77, 78.
Just says Sturgis. So Mitch Diamond says at the Garden with Aerosmith.
Oh, yeah, not only with Aerosmith, but it was the year before AC/DC and Def Leppard opened up for me. And because the unions at Madison Square Garden wouldn't let us do an encore, it was sold out. And, of course, the fans were hardcore, shall we say. And since we weren't allowed to come out and do a second encore, they burnt down 1,100 seats at the Madison Square Garden. And I was banned from playing there until a couple years later when I played with Aerosmith.
Wayne Stevenson says Carolina Coliseum in the 70s, Derek St. Holmes playing bass and singing.
No, Derek never played bass. Derek is a monster singer, but he played guitar. Rob Grange was playing bass guitar. Unbelievable bass player. John, I always celebrate the unbelievable gift of the level of world-class, touched by the hand of God, virtuosos I've been surrounded with. What he saw was Cliff Davies, my drummer from England, who was the drummer for a band called IF. It was a jazz, eclectic, Coltrane meets Frank Zappa, adventurous music, but he was a grinding funk brother of inescapable groove. And Rob Grange made a partnership with Cliff that was a rhythm section that every guitarist dreams of. And with Derek St. Holmes, another world-class guitar player and a vocal that left an imprint. I mean, one of the greatest voices in the history of rock and roll. So what a band that was. A big salute to all my unbelievable virtuosos. By the way, I do get rambling, don't I? Which is very entertaining. Because
you do. I'm trying to name off more concerts, and you're like, we're not going to get very far if it's 10 minutes per concert.
Well, I got to tell you, he mentioned Derek St. Holmes on bass. He must have been a little high that night. Not Derek, but the guy who said that. Derek always played rhythm guitar. He played a Gibson Les Paul Jr. Through a Marshall amp. And here, I think in a couple weeks, we have Derek St. Holmes joining us. He's the original vocalist on the Ted Nugent first solo album, and he'll join us on the Campfire in a couple weeks. Great guy.
All right, now, let me give you the, let's see, Darlene says, Celebrity Theater in Anaheim. He took my scarf, wiped his sweat off his body, and gave it back to me.
And I bet it brought great mojo. And I bet as she wore that scarf, that her sex appeal exploded exponentially after she got a little the Uncle Ted sweat voodoo gree-gree. Remember, we explained gree-gree on a past Campfire. Look it up. And it's also a mojo. A liquid mojo is what I offer, only in the sweat form to unsuspecting strangers.
Just letting you know, Uncle Ted, that we have a record audience tonight. Everybody, when you're hearing inside stories from Ted, so give us a heart, give us a thumbs up, break Facebook, let everybody know that we're actually streaming. Rick said 1975 or 76 with Leonard Skinner, Nashville Speedway.
Absolutely. That was an outdoor gig, and it was in the infancy of Leonard Skinner, and they were already coming out as a powerhouse. We became great friends, and of course, I have to reference that just a couple weeks ago, we had one of the original Leonard Skinner Gods of Thunder, Ricky Medlock, who originally played drums with Leonard Skinner back then. He wasn't in the band at that time, but eventually Ricky Medlock joined up with Leonard Skinner in just, I think he said 20-some years ago, which is amazing because this guy's referencing something over 45 years ago. So it was a great gig, and it was a sweat fest, I promise you, in Georgia. I mean, in the outdoor summertime down south, it was just a sweat fest. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that night, I think when I grabbed a Gibson Birdland to pour the sweat out of the one I was playing, that I think we flushed a pair of mallards out of the pool that I sweated that night. It seems I recall the mallards flushing. There was so much water on the stage. It was like habitat.
All right, so Randy Smith says 1979 Sacramento with Michael Schenker Group. Is that right?
Yes. Sacramento. We played a lot of gigs out there all the time. Love California. There still is a real California. Shit kicker, working hard, playing hard, real music-loving California. And I got to tell you, as we reference some of these old gigs, I haven't played California as much in the last dozen or so years. And it's really a shame. Number one, because I'm not willing to go out more than 6 or 8 weeks because I'm old and I have priorities. I have grandchildren. Plus, my dogs get heartbroken when I leave home, so I must hurry home as soon as possible. But I miss playing out there because Northern California, up in Fresno and Clovis, and up around Marysville, Sacramento, we set the attendance record in I think it might have been just after the damn Yankees, 94, 95, we set an attendance record at the fair, at the state fair up there in Sacramento.
So someone's saying Charlie said that he said, this is all it says, the very first concert in Giant Stadium in New Jersey, 1977. Was that Charlie's first concert or the first concert ever in Giant Stadium?
It might have been both. I don't remember there being any, but we did this Monsters of Rock, the summer rock out with Aerosmith and Foreigner and Journey and Cheap Trick and Heart. And we'd get up there, and again, it was summertime, and I remember I wore an elk coat made out of an elk I shot, and moccasins that went up to my knees made out of deer hide and pheasant feathers. And I've seen that picture. Somebody showed me that picture 1,000 times that night. And what great memories, because the crowds went berserk, and I went adequately berserk with them. They loved the music. I mean, there are still real music that watches the intricacy, the communication between bass and drums and Derek and my guitars. I'm telling you, it's the highest of highs when you are tuned into your surroundings. You cultivate a higher level of awareness to truly absorb the unlimited dynamic of the musical outrage. And I remember those gigs were just firestorms of musical passion.
So Beth Atkins, who I imagine is female, Beth says, I saw and met Ted Nugent in Lima, Ohio, and she was part of your hunting club.
Yeah, we had the Ted Nugent World Bow Hunters, started in '88, and then it turned into the Ted Nugent United Sportsmen of America in 1990. And we, to this day, John, and that's another thing that I think makes this campfire pretty damn special, and the relationship and the passion and the brotherhood that you feel from the viewers. They're not just spectators. I'd like to think that this communication represents a participatory spirit. And when they see a concert, I don't just do the concert and then go order room service. Before every concert, I meet with people. People get backstage passes, and we actually charge for some of them over the years to donate money to charities, children's charities, law enforcement, military charities, and our own Ted Nugent Camp for Kids nonprofit volunteer charity. But there's an intimate setting before every concert and after every concert. So if it sounds like I understand the pulse and the heartbeat of my fellow man, it's because I have intentionally pursued that heartbeat and that pulse of my fellow man, which is why we call it the Spirit Campfire. You have pretty special stuff, John.
And here's something that's crazy. I'm looking at all these concerts that, I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of comments that are just coming in. One thing I think that's special about the Campfire is we're letting everybody take a break from the lunacy that's going on, kind of nuttiness, and everyone's taking a break and remembering great times and having a brand new good time.
You know, we always have. From the first time you and I got together, we didn't plan. We didn't know each other. We didn't plan anything. I think there's an inescapable and much appreciated honesty to someone who doesn't need a script or give me questions beforehand, who just opens up the Campfire microphone. And that's how I treat every dialogue, every interview, every, communication I have, whether it's, here at town at the sushi bar or it's at backstage or here at the Campfire. I got nothing to hide. You got nothing to hide. And I think the fact that we've always emphasized that the positive spirit, the positive goodwill, decency, the love, the understanding, the belief in the support of alternative opinions to a degree, unless it includes violence. I think that's why the Spirit Campfire represents that very important, now more than ever, escape from some really nasty ugliness and negativity out there. So thank you, John, for being a part of this. And thank you, everybody, for keeping that attitude and spirit positive, because we do. We'll talk about politics, and you can go to my Facebook, and I condemn the violence, and I condemn the corruption and the abuse of power and the criminality that you see so often. But on the Spirit Campfire, we're going to keep it more backstrap and spirit of the wild, freedom drenched.
Right. Here's an interesting concert. So you played in Dallas, Fort Worth with Skid Row and Kiss.
Yes, indeed. In fact, that was with Marco Mendoza, and it could have been Michael Cardelloni and Michael Lutz from Brownsville Station. But right in that same time, we did a number of tours with Kiss. In fact, I go all the way back to 1973, performing with Kiss when we still called ourselves Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes. But whether it was Michael Lutz and Michael Cardelloni, the rhythm section from hell, or Marco Mendoza and Tommy Aldridge or Tommy Clefettos. I mean, my God, my list of musicians, John.
It's crazy. It's insane.
The best that ever lived. And we're going to have all of them on the Campfire in upcoming shows.
I have a great Skid Row trivia question. Do you remember when album sales for Billboard and everyone else used to be hand tabulated? Yeah. Used to literally be Tower Records was like, oh, I sold 20 of those. I sold 20 of this.
Yeah, and no digital nothing. Yep.
Right. And there was a big sort of little hubbub back in the day where people weren't sure if the numbers were correct. So they moved to a process called Scantron, where it was with the barcodes and deep, and now it became electronic. Here's the crazy trivia question. The very first #1 album on Scantron was Skid Row's Slave to the Grind.
No kidding. And what's that singer's name again?
Sebastian Bach. You did a
Sebastian Bach. What an incredible vocalist, man. Just an amazing gift, an amazing talent, amazing soulful, unlimited dynamic voice. And I did that Damocracy VH1 show with old Sebastian, and he did have a great voice. And that was about it. But
well, here's the thing. If anybody else, we're changing topics here slightly because I want to talk about Damocracy for a moment. One reason why I want to talk about it is because it was among the best reality TV I had ever seen. I can't remember what year it came out, but it was amazing. There were a couple quotes in there that I want to remind you of. And if anybody has a memory of Damocracy, It was on VH1, and it was Sebastian Bach, yourself, and who else was in the band?
Ian and Jason Bonham. And
Yep.
I feel terrible. I don't remember the bass player's name. I haven't been in touch with any of the guys since, but all great musicians and nice enough guys. Nice
enough guys. Well, the series kind of climaxed with when you were going to play Stranglehold, and Sebastian Bach spoke over you playing the solo for Stranglehold. And I'll never forget the quote. You were like, this is one of the, well, actually, I'm not quoting, but the essence of it was, how dare you talk over my solo? This is one of the greatest rock and roll iconic solos ever. And you were talking over it. And that was the end of the group and the end of the series. That was it.
Yeah, well, I always emphasize the importance of real music lovers, and that means, and I got a bunch, and all right, God bless some of the country guys, but every pickup truck I get in Texas, there's a country station on that's turned down so quietly as to be meaningless. If you don't want to give the credit to the musicians who created this wonderful music, then don't have it in the background. They didn't do it for background. Maybe, I don't know who does that. But when Sebastian was so rude, and even if it wasn't my guitar solo, you don't talk over Ritchie Blackmore's guitar solo. This is the crescendo of the greatest rock and roll music in the world. When it builds up, oh, get 'em all. And, the Kinks with You Really Got Me. It's always the crescendo. And he was so stoned and drunk. That's why I made that comment a minute ago that he has a great voice, and that's about it, because he was just rude to the music. When he sang, I didn't play leads. Huh? How about that? How about a little reciprocity here? How about a little mutual respect? So that's why I really can't stand people that are stoned and drunk.
Right.
They show no respect for themselves, and they show no respect for the environment, whether it's a campfire or a family reunion or a piece of music. So that really kind of soured me to Sebastian, because we were good friends up until then, until he got into the uncomfortably dumb mode. Here's Jeff
Live, I believe is his last name. It said that Scott Ian from Anthrax was on that show.
Monster. Scott was a monster.
And what about Anthrax? How do you feel about Anthrax's music? Because a lot of that's definitely a hit or miss band.
Well, Scott was a perfect example of what I guess you would say is a quintessential heavy metal. Just off as a generality, which is not really thorough enough, but as a generality, I don't like head banging heavy music. It's so Caucasian. It doesn't have any grunt or grind. Now, there are some heavy metal bands like Metallica that really get into a groove. I know they call it heavy metal, my music, but my music's not heavy metal. My music, like Aerosmith and like ZZ Top and like AC/DC, that's not heavy metal. That's rhythm and blues, rock and roll.
Now,
heavy metal is like, and you can go, when we do festivals in Europe, and there would be like Lemmy and whatever that band, Lemmy and Motorhead. When the heavy metal guys were playing, there were no chicks in the audience. It was all boys with leather and Levi's. I go, he's beating their head. But when I play, you got people grooving. When Aerosmith plays, you got people grooving. When ZZ plays, you got people grooving. I like a groove, and I don't mix heavy metal. I respect what they do. I mean, everybody loves Pantera and Metallica. And again, Metallica has more rock and roll rhythm and blues groove than typical heavy metal. But Scott Ian is such a virtuoso, such a creative, clever guy. And by the way, an absolute gentleman and work partner. So there was a lot of that in Damocracy.
Right. So let me I said something before we came on the air, and I want to see if everybody agrees with me. Throw a comment in the chat box on Facebook or YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, a like, or whatever. Here's what I think. And I mean this seriously. I think Ted Nugent, more than likely, is the pioneer. The sound of Ted Nugent's music pioneered the mouth guitar.
Yeah, I've always, the greatest compliment that I've been showered with, and I do mean showered, because why? Because I deserve it. And the best compliment is that my guitar patterns, my solos, my guitar riffs that are the signature theme of the song itself, like Paperback Writer by the Beatles, Satisfaction by the Stones, Walk This Way by Aerosmith, every AC/DC song, there's a guitar signature. And you say mouth them because there's a term that identifies that musical delivery, and that is lyrical. And I guess I could show you what I mean.
Yeah.
I got the Mighty Birdland here, but you stop and think of all my stuff, even Journey to the Center of the Mind in 1968. I mean, come on, how do you not dance to that? And it's not just kung, 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 kung. It's got a dun, 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 dun. It's got a roll to it. And then I wrote the keyboard and the guitar unison part that's... I was only 19 years old, and then the guitar theme, I mean, stop and think, I had no idea, John, where this worked. I just found notes in my 24 or 28-hour jam sessions with Gregor Raymond, Dave Palmer, and when they're going... So they're doing those chords, and I went... I mean, where did that come from? So that's lyrical. It's like it's what a jazz or a blues singer would. It's like a vocal line.
I love your guitar being lyrical, and I totally agree with you. It's kind of like what's interesting is people who really don't dive into music, they'll call like Led Zeppelin heavy metal, and I'm like, Led Zeppelin, they were like
that's blues.
Beethoven.
That's more blues, rhythm and blues and rock and roll.
Totally.
Heavy on the blues itself. Absolutely.
100%. When you think about Page writing, Page was like Beethoven. Like he's really thinking about the structure of the song.
A lot of structure, a lot of orchestration, and that's what I've always done. I mean, I was 18 when I wrote an instrumental called Migration. And even though Gregor Raymond was an unlimited, gifted, virtuoso musical visionary, I wrote a bass line on the guitar. And the bass line was... And Greg didn't complain. It was a pattern, an old chordal. But he said he did it. And then I wrote the piano part for Andy Solomon when... And then my theme line it's just, I don't know where I came up with this, but this is lyrical. This was Migration on the Amboy Dukes. I mean, the crazy, wild rhythm and blues maniac, that's beautiful for a kid, I think.
So here's where there were some people in here who said they loved Ted Nugent's radio show. And I was sent a cassette of the Ted Nugent show. I don't even know if we can really see it.
What a riot that was. That was a riot.
Here's what's hilarious is that this Ted Nugent show, I don't have any way of listening to this. It's on like this foreign, I don't know what, I don't have my 84 Camaro anymore.
I think I got an old cassette player I used as a target here recently. No, but I'm old, John. I'll be 72 in December. But I got to tell you, I was really hooked on the two most important, well, there's a bunch of important things, God, family, country, but work ethic and the inspiration of these new black musical forces. What Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Little Richard taught everybody, and why Elvis Presley was so impacting, because he brought forth his gospel and blues black heroes that had emotion. It had spirit. It had a lot of defiance. A lot of those black heroes, they made music that was just defiant. Tutti Frutti, all Rudy, bebop a loo bop a lamb bamboo, long tall Sally sure likes to ball. I mean, what an outrageous wrench in the world of music back in the 1950s. So I was born at that time. You add a work ethic that was the Detroit spirit my dad forced upon us, God bless the man, and then you apply it to a musical dream, and voila, you got Ted Nugent.
Now, here's a song. This is, a question from Kevin. He says, John, ask Ted to tell us about being in Africa and rushing to the California Jam.
Oh,
great story.
This Spirit Campfire isn't long enough for that one, but
let's do the abbreviated version.
It was 1978. It was late January. I had gone in 77 to my original hunting dream in the spirit of Alaska. I went to Alaska in 77. So I was making some money for the first time in my life. I had my car paid off. I had my barn paid off. And I finally woke up to the most important word in the world. No. I am not going on the road again next month. No, we need a break. You get to stay in your office and go home every night. We see a different hotel 300 times a year. No, I'm going hunting to Africa. So I'll make a long story short. I went to Africa and I was on a dream safari, just like Teddy Roosevelt, in the Sudan. And without exaggerating, John, the rebels, while I was wrapping up my safari, I was booked on March 18th, 1978. March 18th, 1978 at California Jam, 350, 400,000 people. It was $1 million payday for me. There was Derek and Rob and Cliff and the greatest crew in the world. I'd been in Africa, in the Sudan, no electricity, no running water, no phones, no nothing. While I was wrapping it up at the end of February, the rebels started killing everybody.
Oh, boy.
They blew up the Khartoum airport.
What?
Look it up. Khartoum airport was leveled. Everybody was murdered.
What year was this?
1978.
Oh my God.
I don't know why you're smiling, because it was really ugly.
I'm not. Anyhow, I'm saying I'm not smiling. I'm like what?
The Dinka natives who were on safari with us, they got I don't know how they got the word to us, but they said, you got to get out of here. We were near Kapweta, Sudan. We had to leave without the tents, without anything. I had to leave all my bows and arrows. I was able to take my Browning 7 mag and about 20 rounds that we had left. And we got into Unamog and we started driving towards Juba.
I didn't know we were going down this road. That's crazy.
John, that I'm sitting here is a miracle that God has plans for me. Long story short, with lion blood and antelope blood under my finger. We had no water, no nothing. The monsoons came, flooded the Unamog. The Dinka natives ran me the rest of the way. They loved me because I was shooting stuff with my bow and arrow, and they'd never seen anything like that before. We got to Juba as a Red Cross plane was taxiing down a strip, just a dirt strip. I had a shoulder bag with my toothbrush and some Dinka tribal fighting jewelry, my lion claws, and a couple of warthog tusks. And I hadn't seen a bed or a shower or water or anything in 10 days, 12 days. I was a wreck, but I was really athletic and strong. We were eating, we ate Grant's gazelle meat that I was able to shoot with my last rounds. I commandeered a Red Cross plane in Juba. The guy wasn't going to let me in, but he didn't have a choice. I got in, I strapped in. He flew me to Cairo, Egypt. It was, 5-hour flight in that little single prop Red Cross plane. I landed at Cairo. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know nothing. I had a few Sudanese rand in my wallet and an American Express card. I looked up on the board. Nothing's in English, but I saw Heathrow in 20 minutes. So I ran to the gate and got on a jet to Heathrow. I landed at Heathrow. I'm still a wreck. I mean, just filthy. I was able to use the bathroom on the plane, at least clean the blood and mud off my hands, but I looked like a freak. It was awesome. And so I get to Heathrow, and I look up and I see the Concorde, the supersonic jets going to Kennedy Airport, New York, in 15 minutes.
Jeez.
So I had some lady show me how to work those stupid English phones, and I called my management office in New York, and I said, listen closely. It's me. I'm catching a British Airways flight, Concorde to Kennedy. I'm looking at the wall. I'll be on that flight. And I hung up, and they better have listened. And they did, luckily. I got in the I ran down the hall with security chasing me, John, because I looked like
that is insane.
There wasn't any terrorists back then, but I sure looked like one. They were closing the door to the Concorde. I ran past them, got on, strapped in an open seat, put the seatbelt on, and held up my American Express card. And the bobbies, the English police came in, all pissed off, and I just held up my card and go, we can fight or you can take this. And they were getting really serious, and the one guy went, it's a Motor City bad man. And bottom line, they took my American Express. They called ahead to a TWA from Kennedy to LAX. This is a phenomenal story. I have a journal that I documented every minute of the 3.5-week safari. It is now, I don't know what time it is. I don't know if I'm behind American time or if I'm ahead, but I ran down every hall. I ran through Juba. I ran through Cairo. I ran through Heathrow. I'm now on a Concorde to Kennedy. We land at Kennedy. They got a police car on the tarmac. I come down the steps of the Concorde. They put me in the car, take me to the TWA flight. I land at LAX. They have a helicopter waiting for me. I land backstage at the Ontario Speedway 15 minutes before I was supposed to go on. I went on stage covered in African blood and mud and guts, but it's not done yet. And that's when you see the footage, and I opened up with Motor City Madhouse on top of the amps, and I jumped down and almost broke my legs as I slipped and fell because I was a wreck. I hadn't touched a guitar in 4 weeks. And then it turned out, so not only did we rock their balls into oblivion that night, but when I got off stage, it turned out that Derek and Rob and Cliff were quitting the band, and a guy handed me divorce papers.
Whoa.
So I went, okay, we'll get a new band, and we'll get a new woman. Let's go! So that was a moment where I had to call on an inner spirit of fortification, shall we say. And if you see the interviews, I was one wired son of a bitch. That's why a lot of people don't believe I've been clean and sober all my life, because they see the interviews from that California jam, and I looked wired because I hadn't seen a bed or a shower in 3 weeks. I had ran for my life from the terrorists in the Sudan. And you know that Sudan has been shut down since March of 1978.
So what year? I'm like looking up Ted Nugent California Jam on YouTube, and I see full concert 1979.
No, March 18th, 1978.
1978. Somebody labeled this as crazy.
Yeah, that was Cal Jam. Believe me, I remember that stuff because in '79 I got my new band and we went on the road.
Well, here's a question I have, and everybody can respond to this question in the chat box on Facebook. By the way, we have an all-time high audience in terms of numbers, and everyone's sticking around, hanging on your every word.
I think it's all-time high because I got them all-time higher than they've ever been before.
Exactly. So here's what's crazy is that not only have you been gifted with some incredible life experiences, but you are also an amazing storyteller. And you're also you're sober, right? So your stories are very consistent.
Yeah, by the way, this is tonic water I'm drinking. It has
That's right.
It has
at what point are we going to know? Because when my grandfather got to be very old in his 90s, but by the time he got to be in his 90s, he knew the Pope and he knew Mother Teresa and he knew Queen Elizabeth. By the time he reached 90, they were best friends. How are we going to be able to tell when Ted Nugent crosses over and just starts making stuff up? Because your real stories are so crazy. I'm not sure the made up ones we're going to be able to tell the difference.
Well, the most important facet and asset of being clean and sober is that you're smart enough not to tell some of the most outrageous stories in the world unless you have witnesses. So I've got great witnesses to everything I've done, and I've got documentation. We actually have footage of all these things that I'm talking about. And my dear manager, Doug Banker, and certainly my children, and certainly my bandmates and my crew, they can verify all these stories. Now, the guys that I was on safari with, God knows which way the global wind swooped them up. But this is an accurate story. And like I said, I'm just touching on minuscule minutia of the actual events that transpired, because there were some real dangerous times. And they really did. It was like the Idi Amin gang maniac rebel terrorists of the Sudan, and that was when the Sudan went to hell.
Let me see. I don't know if I can make this work, but
that's my backstage interview at Cal Jam right there.
I know. I'm trying to pull it up. Everybody's sitting on edge, waiting for me to do this. Hold on one second. Everyone's like, "Show me the interview. Show me the interview." So I'm trying to pull it up. Hold on. Look, it's let's see. I think that this is it. Is this right? Let's see.
And by the way, I got a buddy out there named Mark Peacock. He was there. We should have Mark Peacock come on. In fact, look at the people that are viewing the Spirit Campfire right now, John. If Mark Peacock is there, bring him on.
Do we hear this?
And I mean, rock and roll is a progressive state. Or I hate to use the word progressive. It's so basic. Progress can ruin rock and roll. So let's say that it has maintained its urgency and has maintained its initial throb, and we've just got such a good pulse on this drop now, and I've got such a good pulse on this drop. I rock and I play, and it feels so good. It's the ultimate thing in life. It's the ultimate thing. I'm really happy with project. Oh no, back in the '60s when we had these festivals, 300,000 Wild Escape Maniac, we used to play those things all the time. And that was good. Those were good lessons, because you learn that when you're playing for a vast sea of people, but the name of the game is bombard. The name of the game is blast out, and drive, beat, big drums. Gotta have big drums. When you got big drums, the bodies start moving. When the bodies start moving, the grins start going. When the grins start going, you got it.
I can't pull that stuff up like that.
I mean, that's pretty crazy. Here's what I have to say, and I got to render a verdict on this. I'm going to render a verdict on this because everybody's saying,
I'm sorry, the jury's already in.
Yeah, the verdict's already in. Here you go. You're saying you're clean and sober. But is there a loophole in that? Are you kind of sort of saying like, hey, I'm not doing like you're high on life all the time. My God, you look like human beings don't look like that. You look like you just came from Africa in a mad rush going somewhere. That's, I guess, what happens.
Kind of like I look every time we start the Spirit Campfire, and I'm so excited to talk about the things that turn me on. I'm old now, but if I think Jason Hartless, my incredible drummer, along with Greg Smith, I have the greatest rhythm section in the history of Pummel. You ever been to the land of Pummel? Come to my concert. You can be an invited guest to the land of Pummel. But Jason said during the rehearsal one night, he goes, if the 25-year-old Ted Nugent showed up, you'd kick his ass. So yeah. I really have a lot of vitality. I have a big passion for life. John, it's so simple. That's why we call it the Spirit Campfire. Yeah. I get high on the pulsations of life, nature, the incredible family that I have, the incredible friends and neighbors that I communicate. I shoot with them. We barbecue. We do benefits. I was talking with the great Parnell McNamara, ex-U.S. Marshal hero that's now the sheriff of McLennan County. And we were going over ideas and strategies on how to keep our neighborhoods safe here in Central Texas. So my aliveness has been misunderstood often, because some people, and let me give you an example of some people that misunderstand me. I don't know how many interviews you've done in life. You've done interviews with me, and I think they have a certain pulse. There's a certain profile to a Ted Nugent interview, and it's very alive. It's very passionate. It's very adventurous, and it's got a lot of fun involved. Well, John, I've seen some of the interviews where, they'll ask a guy about the new record, and they'll go, well, yeah, it's pretty good. We recorded a new record. What does that guy have to strap his balls to a mixer to have some fun? I mean, how can you, what is that? And that's why I can't stand high and drunk, because it takes away your fire. It takes away your fun. It takes away your health. It takes away your view, your understanding. It takes away your dreams. So when people see me, you can go any interview from the 1960s to tonight. And I've been passionate about this stuff because what are we talking about? We're talking about freedom, my music, the people who love my music, the adventures to get to my music, the musicians that inspire my music. How can I be, we recorded a record. It'll be out soon. I get more excited choosing socks in the morning.
I know that's true. Now, one of the things that I keep seeing in the chat room here is everybody wants you to grow your hair out again.
Good luck with that. I think it's awesome that I still have some.
I think it's pretty amazing you do. The question is, how long could you grow your hair?
Well, I haven't cut it in a while, and we keep talking about letting it go. But I'll tell you, I'm a pragmatic utilitarian, John. I want effectiveness. I want efficiency. I want to get from point A to point B, fill in the blanks. The reason I cut it years ago, and I love to hunt, and I love to go into uncharted territories after the critters and the deep swamps and the forest and the marshes and the fens. Fen, F-E-N, it's a unique wetland habitat that supports a diversity of wildlife and flora and fauna, including the Mitchell's satyr butterfly that needs the Christmas tree fern, an endangered plant in most fens, but not an endangered plant in Ted Nugent's fen, because I kill enough herbivores to save the Mitchell's satyr butterfly. Say, thank you, Uncle Ted. So my point is when I was dragging a deer out, which I do about 100 times a year, I'm crawling through the muck and the entanglements where a booger couldn't go. I mean, I really go into uncharted hell zones. And all the time, I'm dragging these deer out of these pucker brush hell zones, and my ponytail kept getting snagged on the various vegetation. So I literally came home one night and I go, that's it. We're cutting the damn thing off tonight. And I got to tell you, when people made a note of my cutting my hair, I think I can best articulate the subject of hair in the following manner. It's just hair. It's not important. I have a list of 1 million important things, and guess what's not on that list? Hair.
Right. We put up the definition of fen for everyone in case, because you were trying to teach us. It's a low and marshy or frequently flooded area of land.
Yes, and I have the largest fen, I've been told by the botanists. I have botanists and biologists and scientists come to my fen every year to study it because they're fascinated, and they keep telling me from all these universities and environmental groups that Ted Nugent owns the healthiest fen they've ever seen. It's a miracle of God's creation because it's where your quality air, soil, and water comes from. And they all tell me that the reason my fen and my marsh and my swamp and my forest and my high ground is so healthy because I harvest an adequate number of animals every year so that they don't overwhelm the supportive habitat. I'm like Mother Teresa with a bow and arrow. It's like I'm doing God's work.
Well, here's a very important question, and I think this is one that everybody wants to know, and I'm not sure if anybody's ever asked you this, but it's several people in the room are asking, how did you take care of your hair in 1978? Did you have to brush, hairspray, blow dryer? Like, what was the process?
All right, we'll talk about hair.
Question?
We'll talk about hair for just a moment here.
All
and
right,
by the way,
hear the hair story.
By the way, you could pull up some photos, and let's just admit it, everybody. This isn't ego. This is not being too cocky. I know it's impossible. But I had the greatest hair in the world. My hair was so cool, I could hardly stand it.
Let's see if we all believe that Ted had the greatest hair in the world.
I had the greatest hair in the world. Okay. And what did I do? You know what I did, John?
Yeah.
Nothing. I
You did
washed
nothing
it.
to it?
I washed it every 2 or 3 days. I shower every day, but I only wash my hair every 2 or 3 days. And then I would either blow dry it or get on my Enduro Yamaha and go fast for a half an hour and let the wind blow dry it. But I never did jack squat to my hair. It was just a head cover.
Here, Herbert, go full on this. Look at this. Like, let's see.
Where do you
see
get this stuff, by the way? Where do you get the history of Ted's hair? That's awesome.
Well, look, I typed in Ted Nugent hair, and this is what ends up coming up. And some people, you know, what's interesting is, you know, this is, I mean, this, I love this picture right here. I mean, this is just this is the kind
Weird
of picture
Al.
that, you know, when your mother sees you listening to this,
Kathy right there, yeah.
you know, this is that right there is the picture that brings everybody and says, what are you listening to? Look at this. I mean, there's some amazing photographs in here.
Yeah, Bill King took that really good-looking one. He was a wonderful homosexual, famous fashion photographer in New York, and boy, did we get along great.
Look at this. Wow, your hair. I didn't know your hair was blonde like that at one point.
Oh, boy, that's some nice hair. I'm going to have to sniff that hair tonight, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Now, you see that? Like, you actually look a little bit like Post Malone there.
Who's
or Post
that?
Malone looks like you, whichever one.
Who'd you say, Post Malone?
Oh, stop. Post Malone?
Post Malone,
Oh,
oh, yeah. Except I shower.
Oh, stop it.
I'm not
just
gonna
told us
stop
a
it.
story
Yeah, that'll be
when
the
you
day. I'll
didn't
stop.
shower and you had blood all over you from Africa.
Yeah, at least I had an excuse.
Well, you know.
Don't try to corner me, John. You won't do it.
I won't do it. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that grin. What is that grin? How would you describe that?
I'd call that venison breath toothology.
What happened to are your teeth still like that?
No, I had it fixed. Shemaine said I should get it fixed about 20 years, maybe 25 years ago. So I got it fixed.
So you got that?
Actually, it's a great story. You know, there's a million stories in the Naked Cities, and all the best ones are mine, John. You know how I got that chipped tooth? My brother John, 1959, at 23251 Florence in Detroit, 19, Michigan, which, by the way, did I mention our phone number was Kenwood, 12345. And anyhow, at that 23251 Florence Street in Detroit, 19, Michigan, or maybe, no, that was Detroit. Yeah, Detroit, 18, Michigan. Anyhow, my brother John, my little brother John, who passed away earlier this year, just a great, great man. We love John. He's with me every day. Funny, funny guy, a positive force of nature. He and I were playing Cowboys and Indians, and he was almost 6 years younger than I was. And we were lassoing each other with rope in the living room. We had a cardboard fireplace for Christmas. It was a cardboard fireplace that looked like brick. And we had our stockings hung there. And John was lassoing me, and the phone rang in the kitchen. We had one phone on the wall. It was one of those dial phones. Brr, brr. I think it might have been a party line where you had to wait your turn. But anyhow, I answered the phone, and Johnny kept trying to lasso me, and I kept, cut it out, stop it. And I smashed my tooth with the phone and spit out a chunk.
Oh my God!
See, there's a million stories. I remember all these stories. They're awesome.
Dude, it's pretty incredible. So we had the Ted. By the way, Ted, if you just like Google Ted Nugent hair, that is hours of fun right there.
Is that how you got that? You Googled
Yes.
that?
I'm
I'm surprised they didn't have fact checkers that says it's not accurate information.
Well, it might be. Listen, you said you did nothing to your hair. You literally just woke up. You didn't even run a comb through it.
No, well, this is all I do. I just push my hands through it, and I had such wavy hair when it was long. In fact, it's wavy now, except that I've been sweating all day trying to live in 105-degree Texas temperatures. But I've never done anything but wash it. I never even used rinse until, I don't know, until the late 80s. And after I'd wash it, I'd just run my hands through it, and that's why it looked like an animal in heat.
You know what? It's here's an interesting thing on here. I'm just going to pull this up. Let me see.
I can't imagine how you get this stuff. This is
hold on a second.
Tough.
So
now,
I typed in you know what? I'm not going to share these because they're not as good.
Yeah. Anyhow, I thought I would mention that we decided not to have a guest tonight, but we've had some wonderful guests. Man, I hope everybody loves this campfire. They're supposed to push a heart or something, John. Is that what they're supposed to do?
What's that?
The people supposed to push the heart button or something?
Yeah, push the heart button and the thumbs up because we're about to wrap up, but we're going to be talking about our military charity right now. What charity did you want to plug this week, Ted?
Well, I'm going to, but first I just want to tell everybody that John and I so appreciate the energy and the fact that you join us at what we call a spirit campfire. And I would like to encourage you all to cultivate and take time in your lives to have your own spirit campfire with your family. Everybody seems to be running back and forth by each other. Hey, how'd you do in school today? Well, good. Okay, that's all I get out of him today. I really think that this communication for us, and we can tell by the people really enjoying this. We know you enjoy it. We enjoy it. John and I have a passion for life. We have a passion for positive spirit and energy. In the world of chaos and the corruption, the criminal behavior and the media, the hate in the media, people are being censored like Nazis censoring people if they say something that the left doesn't like, and we're working on that. We're going to talk on, what is today? Today's Thursday, so Monday.
On Monday.
Monday, we're going to try to have Wayne Kramer. John, you need to Google the MC5, and even though nothing that comes up on Google comes close to adequately describing the musical power of the MC5 for 2 years until the drugs destroyed them, and I'll talk to Wayne about that. Wayne and I are good friends. We know each other, and John, you will be shocked how Wayne and I were born at the same time, in the same year, in the same neighborhoods, pursuing the same music with Joe Podorczyk as our same guitar teacher at the Capitol School of Music. And he was playing I didn't know him at the time. I didn't know him until the MC5 in '67. But we played all the same songs. We played all the same intense Motown James Brown grooves. And I think the dialogue and the spirit campfire we're going to have with Wayne Kramer, it's either going to be Monday or the following Thursday. I think it is going to be the most fascinating. God bless Mike Huckabee and Ricky Medlock and Billy Gibbons and Tim Montana. By the way, Billy Gibbons and Tim Montana on Fox News tomorrow morning at 8:45. They're supposed to be jamming. At least that's what Tim told me. So go watch Fox News, Tim Montana and Billy Gibbons tomorrow morning at 8:45 or something like that. But
Chad,
anyhow,
we did something last week. Everybody's asking for another. Do you have your acoustic guitar in reach?
Of course.
I mean, if you could do another little lead us out with another, like last week you did, what song did you do last week? It was amazing.
I just want to go hunting.
Okay, so that was I just want to go hunting. Can you do another one? Let me
do this. We're having a big get down right now. We have this book that Shemaine, people are out on every day. You should write a cookbook. We did. We wrote a cookbook many years ago. It's called Ted and Shemaine Nugent, Kill It and Grill It. Shemaine and I signed a couple of thousand of these this week. Yep. And if you want an autographed copy of that book or this photo to go with it, and of course, John's favorite hat.
Oh, geez.
It's a beautiful hat. It's a beautiful.
There it is.
It's the hat, by the way.
Yeah.
But if you want that,
referred to as the hat, at least in the chat room.
Write this down. Old West Antiques at yahoo.com. Literally, Tim and Ashley Tucker, they're out of work because of the Chinese virus, and they are stockpiling these autographed books, autographed photos, and the hat, autographed hat. Old West Antiques at yahoo.com. And you can get all this stuff. We're having a sale at tednugent.com. We're raising a lot of money for a lot of important causes. But I thank everybody for their support. I thank everybody for their spirit and their piss and vinegar and their attitude. And John, you're not going to believe this song. I hope I can even remember it. I just want to go hunting, and I played that last week. A great groove. I mean, everything's got a grind. Even the Fred Bear song, as emotional as it is, it's got patterns. All my songs have those grinds, you know? Here's a song, again, help me out here. I'm going to try to remember this, but this is a song. This is the Spirit Campfire. Our TV show is called The Spirit of the Wild. By the way, we just filmed our 500th show on the Outdoor Channel, Spirit of the Wild, Shemaine and I. Thank you for that support over the years. This song, John, is called Spirit of the Buffalo. And I play it campfire-wise here because I want you to really embrace these lyrics. And it's just a fun arpeggio, but it goes... like a buffalo, nobody can track me down, but I'll make my stand like a buffalo, and I'll make my way to higher ground. The people come from far away, they bought the plow and the will to stay, they broke ground and promises, now we pray for a brand new day. What would you do for the buffalo? Sacrifice everything you own. Give up your life and security. Would you give them back their home? Don't you pretend they disappeared. You killed them off with electricity. But now they're back on a sacred ground. We celebrate the spirit is free. I got the spirit of the buffalo, spirit of the buffalo, spirit of the buffalo. Spirit of the buffalo, spirit of the buffalo, spirit of the Follow that?
I did, man. I especially like that little diminished chord that you ended with.
Yeah, it's a diminishing thing. I diminished that chord. I could have.
All right, well, listen, everybody, one last blast on Facebook, hearts and thumbs up. That's how everybody knows to watch this next time. We'll be back Monday, 9 Eastern, and we're going to have another amazing show. Biggest audience yet.
Yep, John, we got Derek St. Holmes coming up, Wayne Kramer, I got Tommy Aldridge and Tommy Clefettos, I got Carmine Appice, I got Dave Amato coming on, we got Joe Rogan lined up, we got a bunch of great guests coming up, and don't forget at that Old West Antiques at yahoo.com, you can get Shemaine's amazing book, and Shemaine has an amazing TV show. Honey, is that on YouTube? It's called Simply Shemaine. Facebook watch.
Facebook.com/Shemaine.Nugent.
Yes, that's what you do.
Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern.
All right, so John, thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless America. God bless the military heroes. We're talking about a charity, and I'm going to once again celebrate this charity. It's Heartstrings for Heroes. Heartstrings for Heroes. We know we can't give to every charity, but when you get the feeling, give to whatever military and law enforcement charity you need to, and you can, because right now the good guys seem to have a lot of hate leveled towards them. So those of us that know that safe streets and safe neighborhoods are why we can have an American dream, we owe that to the heroes of the law enforcement, military, and first responders. So always say thank you to them, and if you can find a charity that will benefit those heroes, please be as generous as you can. John, I'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Boy, will I have a story for you on Monday, because I'll be in a new location, and it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. God bless everybody. See ya.